A very warm welcome to viewers in New York, the Carbon State capital, and from around the world. This is World View. My name is Xavier Robert, and on our top stories today, Russian naval ship damaged in Ukrainian naval drone attack in Black Sea. United States orders partial evacuation of its embassy in Niger following last week's coup. Donald Trump pleads not guilty to charges he sought to overturn 2020 election results in the United States. Navalny gets 19 years jail term. Details of these stories and more in a moment. You're still watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. And first on our story today, the jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been handed a further 19-year jail term at a trial in a remote penal colony. Navalny was found guilty of founding and funding an extremist organization and activities. He denies the charges, and he's already serving a 9-year term for parole violations, fraud and contempt of court. The charges are widely viewed as politically motivated. And since his jailing in 2021, Navalny has been held at a remote penal colony. A hole in the prison penal colony number 6 in Melikovo, which is 240 kilometers east of Moscow, was turned into a makeshift courtroom for the Kremlin's most vocal critic. The proceedings were held behind closed doors. Navalny will serve his time in a maximum security colony, his spokeswoman Kira Yamish said. Russian state prosecutors had called for a 20-year prison sentence for Navalny and for him to serve it in an even more restrictive special regime colony. Such prisons are normally reserved for Russia's most dangerous criminals. In a message posted on social media ahead of the verdict, Navalny expressed his belief that he would be handed a Stalinist-style prison term designed to frighten other potential dissenters. On paper, it is a Moscow court that is hearing the case, but the decision to hold a remote trial in a prison suggests that the Russian authorities wanted to avoid the publicity that would inevitably come with transporting Navalny to the Russian capital. Meanwhile, a Russian naval ship has been damaged in a Ukrainian naval drone attack in the Black Sea. The assault is reported to have happened near the Russian port of Novorossiysk, which is a major hub for Russian exports. Russia's defense ministry said it had repelled a Ukrainian attack with 2 sea drones on its naval base there. The landing ship is designed to carry equipment and personnel for beach landings. The Novorossiysk port temporarily suspended any movement of ships following the assault, according to the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, which loads oil on the tankers at the port. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military has launched an attack on Russia's bridge over the Kerch Strait last month. The attack on the strategically important route linking Russia with Crimea led Moscow to restricting passage of ships through and flights over the strait, and reports say that the incident on 17 July marks the second time the structure was hit. Russia said marine-based drones were used in the attack, which left 2 people dead. Kiev officials claimed responsibility for damaging the bridge yesterday following a period of ambiguity. In a related development, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has challenged all countries to tell Russia to stop using the Black Sea and Ukraine's grain as blackmail and stop treating the world's hungry and vulnerable people as leverage in its unconscionable war, as he called it. America's top diplomat lashed out at Russia at the United Nations Security Council meeting on Thursday for ignoring the world's appeal and pulling out of the year-old deal that allowed Ukraine to ship more than 32 tons of grain from Black Sea ports to needy countries. The grain agreement had allowed Ukrainian grain exports via the sea during the conflict between the 2 countries. Moscow refused to extend the deal, leading to a spike in grain prices that hit poorer countries hard.
Hunger must not be weaponized. I urge all member states to join this communiqué. We also must significantly increase aid to tackle extreme hunger and to avert famine. Last year, governments and private donors made record contributions, providing direct relief, equipping farmers with fertilizer, using satellite imagery to maximize yields. Donations for the World Food Program jumped 48%. The United States alone provided more than 7 other efforts helped the world narrowly avoid famine last year.
Away from that, Tunisian President Kais Saied has sacked Prime Minister Najla Bouden and replaced her with former central bank's executive Ahmed Hachani, whom he tasked with overcoming the colossal challenges facing the cash-strapped North African country. No official particularly of bread in state-subsidized bakeries. According to reports, Saied terminated the functions of Bouden, who had been the first woman to head a government in Tunisia. Elsewhere, in Niger's ousted President Mohamed Bazoum has called on the international community to return his government to power, warning of devastating consequences for the world if the coup against him succeeds. In an op-ed in the Washington Post, Bazoum, who was deposed last week by the military, said the United States and the rest of the international community must help his country restore its constitutional order. Bazoum said in the column published on Thursday that the coup launched against his government by a faction in the military on July 26 has no justification. Bazoum, one of a dwindling number of pro-Western leaders in Africa, said the West African country has been a beacon of hope in a region plagued with violent extremism. Niger, which gained its independence from France in 1960, has been viewed as one of the reliable partners of the West in fighting extremist groups in Africa's Sahel region. The West African country, which borders 7 countries including Libya, Chad and Nigeria, is the largest recipient of U.S. military assistance in the region, having received an estimated $500 million since 2012. Niger also hosts more than 2,000 Western troops, mostly from the U.S. and state television. General Abdurrahman Chiani had declared himself the head of a transitional government after toppling the government in order to prevent what he called the gradual and inevitable demise of the country. In a related development, the United States has ordered the partial evacuation of its embassy in Niger following last week's coup. Hundreds of foreign nationals have reportedly been evacuated from the country, and on Sunday, the French embassy was reportedly attacked by protesters. Meanwhile, France, the former colonial power in Niger, has asked the military junta, which has taken control of the country, to guarantee the security of their embassy. Meanwhile, the United States has chartered a plane to evacuate its non-essential personnel from coup-hit Niger. A State Department official speaking on condition of anonymity said the flight, which is also open to American citizens wishing to leave the West African country, is scheduled to depart yesterday from Niamey if all things go right. He added that consular services in Niger had begun contacting several hundred registered U.S. citizens to ascertain whether they plan to stay or leave the fragile nation, a week after President Mohamed Bazoum was deposed by his own guard and a military junta installed. According to the same, a handful of U.S. citizens have already boarded flights chartered by France and Italy in recent days. Away from that, UK scouts are set to leave an international event in South Korea, which has been hit by extreme heat. Hundreds have fallen ill at the outdoor World Scout Jamboree, which is attended by more than 40,000 young people from around the world. The British group of more than 4,000, the largest in attendance, in moving to hotels amid 35 degrees Celsius temperatures, the Scouts Association confirmed. The South Korean government said it is sending water and medics to the site. A statement from the UK's largest scouting organization said its group will be moved into hotels over the next 2 days in a bid to alleviate the pressure on the site overall. Away from that, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to charges he sought to overturn the 2020 election results in the United States as the embattled former president made his first court appearance to respond to a new federal indictment against him. Trump entered his plea on Thursday afternoon during an arraignment hearing at the Barrett-Prittman United States Courthouse in Washington, D.C. The judge set the next hearing in the case for August 28. The arraignment came just 2 days after U.S. prosecutors filed federal charges against Trump, accusing the Republican politician of seeking to overturn the results of the 2020 election that he lost to his Democratic rival Joe Biden. The case is the third criminal indictment filed against the former president since March. And Trump also faces state charges in New York over an alleged hush money payment to an adult film star and federal charges linked to accusations he mishandled classified government documents at his Florida estate. The current frontrunner in the race for the Republican Party's 2024 presidential nomination, Trump has denied all wrongdoing and framed the indictments as attempts to derail his campaign. But the latest indictment could be his biggest hurdle yet. Experts have said the 2020 election interference case marks the most significant of the 3 criminal indictments, with one expert calling it probably the most significant legal case in the nation's history. The indictment alleges that Trump pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results in an attempt to scuttle Biden's 2020 victory. Away from that, at least 6 people have reportedly been killed by a landslide in the western Georgian region of Russia. The Interior Ministry said in a post on social media that 6 bodies have been found during the search and rescue operation. He said in an earlier post that rescue efforts were underway and that 140 people had been evacuated. Reports say the 2 helicopters and rescue dogs were involved in the search efforts. The landslide took place in Shovy, a small resort area in Georgia's mountainous northwest, famed for its vast forests and natural springs. Away from that, Ethiopia's federal government has declared a state of emergency as violent clashes escalate between the national army and local fighters from the northern region of Amhara. The office of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said in a statement posted on social media that it has become necessary to declare a state of emergency as the situation has emerged where it has become difficult to control the unacceptable movement under current law. The statement did not make clear if the state of emergency applied nationwide or just to Amhara, which lies to the north of the capital, Addis Ababa. According to reports, clashes in Amhara between the National Army and local fighters have escalated in recent weeks, prompting travel warnings from foreign governments and the cancellation of flights by the national courier Ethiopian Airlines. Tensions have been rising since April when the federal government announced it was dismantling regional forces, including in Amhara, where nationalists felt the move would weaken Ethiopia's second most populous region. After the break, reports emerged that oceans have hit their hottest ever recorded temperature. Do stay with us for details. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now the oceans have hit their hottest ever recorded temperature as they soak up warmth from climate change with dire implications from the planet's health. The average daily global sea surface temperature beat a 2016 record this week. According to the EU's climate change service, Copernicus, it reached 20.96 Celsius, and that is far above the average for this time of the year. And oceans are a vital climate regulator, and they soak up heat, produce half Earth's oxygen, and drive weather patterns. Warmer waters have less ability to absorb carbon dioxide, meaning more of that planet-warming gas will stay in the atmosphere, and it can also accelerate the melting of glaciers that flow into the ocean, leading to more sea level rise. Hotter oceans and heat waves disturb marine species like fish and whales as they move in search of cooler waters, upsetting the food chain. Experts warn that fish stocks could be affected, and some predatory animals, including sharks, can become aggressive as they get confused in hotter temperatures. Away from that, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said that Pakistan's National Assembly will be dissolved on August 9, 3 days before the completion of the 5-year parliamentary term. Sharif made the announcement during a dinner hosted for the members of his ruling coalition on Thursday. A senior government minister who attended the meeting told media on condition of anonymity. Sharif has been in power since April last year, when his predecessor Imran Khan was removed following a no-confidence vote in parliament. The dissolution of the National Assembly sets the stage for general elections later this year. Pakistan's constitution says if the assembly is dissolved on time, which is August 12, the elections will take place within 60 days. However, if the dissolution takes place even a day earlier, that period is extended to 90 days. If the assembly is dissolved on August 9 and announced by Sharif, the elections will be held in November under the supervision of a caretaker government, as mandated by the Constitution. The names of the caretaker Prime Minister and other top functionaries are likely to be announced over the weekend. In a televised address after Thursday's dinner with political allies, Sharif said his coalition government faced many challenges when it came to power. Meanwhile, Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati has threatened to send in the Lebanese army to the country's largest Palestinian refugee camp, where fighting in recent days has killed more than a dozen people, wounded many more, and displaced thousands. In a phone call, Mikati urged the president of the Palestinian Authority, PA, Mahmoud Abbas, to ensure hostilities between Palestinian factions at the Ain el-Hilwa camp cease. Mikati called the clashes a flagrant violation of Lebanese sovereignty and said that it was unacceptable for the groups to terrorize the Lebanese, especially the people of the south who have embraced the Palestinians for many years, according to a statement released by his office. The fighting near the southern port city of Sidon has been going on since Sunday, but there was some calm on Thursday. Abbas's Fatah party has accused the armed groups John al-Sham and Shabab al-Muslim of gunning down Fatah military general Abu Ashraf al-Moshi. In the camp, people have fled to nearby mosques and the schools to escape the violence. Away from that, deforestation in Brazil's Amazon fell in July to its lowest level for the month since 2017, according to preliminary government figures. The satellite data from Brazil's National Institute for Space Research, INPE, on Thursday indicated that 500 square kilometers of rainforest were cleared in the month, a 66% drop from the same period a year ago. In the first 7 months of the year, deforestation has fallen a cumulative 42.5% from the same period of 2022, according to INPE's preliminary data. The data comes after figures last month showed deforestation in the Amazon had fallen 34% in the first half of 2023. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You've been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. My name is Xavier Roberts. Do enjoy the rest of our programming today. Bye-bye.